located on the First Peoples traditional lands. We recognize this traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walk this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibility to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all the First Peoples and nations that call this place home. The town expresses gratitude for the opportunity to build a better community on these sacred lands for generations to come. And with that, I'd like to call today's organizational meeting of council to order. First order of business is adoption of the agenda. Council, are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, seeing nothing from council. Administration, are there any changes?
Nothing from administration.
Thank you, CEO. So just as a note, council, our digital voting system isn't working for the organizational meeting. So for the org meeting, we are going to be voting old school by show of hands. So we would need a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Reese. Oops, sorry, Councillor Reese.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we adopt the regular council agenda for October 17th, 2023.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Reese. Council, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. That brings us to our first order of business, item 3.1. Boards and committees, public members, application review, which is closed sessions. We'd be looking for a motion from council for closed session. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that we go into closed session, please.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Administration, while we're in closed session, if we could have a look at the microphone system too. It's doing the same thing it was a couple of weeks ago, where as soon as somebody keys their talk button or their cue button, their mic's going live. Right, thank you. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We're now reconvened. We'll just give council a couple minutes to get their votes tallied for the boards and committees appointments. And once they're completed, council, if you could just put them on the bar and administration will collect them. Question to administration then, do we want to just wait while the votes are compiled, or do we want to move on to 4.2 council meeting schedule and then come back to 4.1?
Through the chair, just because it'll take us a few minutes to tally up all the different votes, I'm comfortable to move on and just come back. We can write down the results and deliver them with the motion later.
Thank you for that. Council, is there any opposition to moving to 4.2 and then coming back to 4.1 once votes are tallied? Okay, seeing no opposition from council, that's what we will do. We'll move on to 4.2, 2023-2024 council meeting schedule. CEO Panasic.
Thank you, Chair, to the rest of council. For the 23-24 meeting schedule, we are proposing that we stick with the status quo. That is 2 regular council meetings and 2 committee of the whole meetings per month with no breaks during the summer months. Rationale being, if we do need to cancel some meetings, that we always have that option, but keeping the schedule in place, we're comfortable with right now.
Okay, thank you, CEO Panasic. Just before I go to council, I had a question. In the analysis section, option 3 states schedules 4 meetings per month, 2 regular council and 2 committee of the whole meetings. I'm assuming though that's with the exception of summer per the proposed calendar that's on page, sorry. Page 31 of the package. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Thank you for that clarity. Okay, council, are there any questions? Councillor Taylor?
I like option 1, which is what we've got right now. And the rationale provided, we can always, as we have in the past, if there's not enough agenda topics, we can skip meetings. But we're a town of 10,000 and it seems like we have enough material that in order to keep the town going, regular meetings of this frequency are appropriate. So I would like to move that council approve option 1. Approve, if that's it there, the 2022-23 council meeting schedule presented as option 1, aligning with council procedural bylaw 1153, providing 2 regular council meetings and 2 committee of the whole meetings per month and for no breaks during the summer months. That's what I think is reasonable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Taylor. Council, we have a motion before us. Would anyone like to speak to it? Councillor Haas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be in favor of this. However, I do want to mention, I appreciate administration. I wasn't a fan previously. We used to have like 4 weeks in a row off, but alternating them was during the summer was an option that still is available to us with this motion with if we don't have. So, I'm in agreement. We've always got a lot of work to do, and it is an opportunity to get some of those lower ended hanging fruit done during the summer sometimes if we don't have as many people. But I think that's the best option with canceling as needed. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, anyone else would like to speak to it? I'll speak quickly to it. I'm in support of the proposed motion as well. I think it's a good structure, and town business doesn't stop during the summer. So I think it's important that the opportunity is there at least to have those meetings and that they are scheduled in advance. As Councillor Taylor said, if there isn't a need for all those meetings to be there, they can be canceled quite easily. So that's definitely an option, but they're there if anything emergent comes up that needs to be dealt with. So I will be in support. Councillor Race?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will vote in support of this. It seems to work good for council and administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, are there any other comments or questions before we call the motion to question? Okay, seeing nothing from council, we have a motion that council approve the 2023-2024 Council meeting schedule is presented as option one, aligning with council procedure bylaw number 1153, providing 2 regular council meetings and 2 committee of the whole meetings per month and for no breaks during the summer months. Council, all those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Administration, are we making out on vote tallying?
Through to all of council, you have a tie for one position.
Oh, boy. Okay. So to administration, what happens in the event of a tie? How about they arm wrestle? Say open
Through,
house.
through the chair, I don't believe that's identified in our procedural bylaws. So my recommendation is that we would put the 2 tied candidates on one piece of paper and we would provide it to council once again. Alternatively, we could draw a name out of the hat, but we'll leave that to council's discretion.
Okay, council, any thoughts on how we'd like to handle this? Councillor Race?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to go with a ballot with the 2 names and then go from there.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Race. Do you want to move that, Councillor Race? Sorry. Go ahead.
I'd like to move that. I don't quite know how you said it, but it was really good. To go with a ballot holding the 2 names and we would vote from there.
Just give administration to a second to capture that. So just before we put this on the floor for discussion, if Councillor Race would be, or sorry, if council would be okay with it, I would like to add that if that vote ends in a tie, that a name is drawn from a hat from the two tied voter or the 2 tied applicants. So council, is there any opposition to adding the draw from the hat if it winds up in a tie again? Okay, seeing no opposition from council, if we could add that to the motion as well, please. Okay, so to administration, then would administration need some time to prepare some new ballots with those 2 names on them? Ready?
Through the chair, we have them.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. You. So council, just vote for one of the applicants, please. Only if it's a tie again.
Looking at the guy that has a hat.
Is there any opposition to see Open ASIC drawing the name from the hat? Okay, any opposition to me drawing from the hat? Okay. Who knew boards and committees could be so exciting?
So through the chair, we will recommend that, and I'll apologize on the front end for the names, but to appoint Hayden Amundrud, Amelia Burley, Sabrina Cressa Pinge. Thank you. Sterling Mosel, Jada Orr, Herla Tangri, Madison Testo, and Adeline Zimmerman.
Okay, so that's for the Hinton Youth Council or the Hinton Youth Advisory Council
That's correct.
and the nominees for the Hinton Municipal Library Board.
Yes, through the chair, we have Nora Allen and Eric Johnson.
Okay, thank you. And nominees for the Beaver Boardwalk Oversight Committee.
George Shantz and Beth McCollum.
Okay, thank you, CEO Panasic. So council, we have the results of the vote. Is there any comments, question, discussion, or motion? Councillor Haas,
I'd like to move the recommended action with including all the names that CEO Panasic just announced. If I can speak to it.
sure, you can speak to it, and we'll just we'll let administration get that all collected and then have a look and make sure that it's to your liking.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted, first of all, thank you to all the applicants. I realize this is volunteer, but it's greatly appreciated. I definitely want to shout out to the Youth Advisory. This is the most we've ever had since the beginning of the Youth Advisory Council. I think that all really boils down to the administration and the hard work that they do to make the meetings both informative and fun. The word has got out there. So I'm really excited to see so many applicants. It's tough when you have more than 8 spots and you have to choose, but I really hope that those that aren't successful this year try again next year when the time comes, because it is only a year term. So we're always looking for that. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. We'll just give administration a second to get the motion together. Hey, Councillor Haas, if you could have a look at that and make sure that that reflects the motion that you wanted to make.
Yes. Leave it at that.
Please separate. Okay. Okay, council, we do have the motion before us. If you want to have a look at it, if there's any comments or questions or discussion before we call that to question. Councillor Race, are you Did you have a question? Are you good? Do you need a minute? Okay. Okay, if there's no comments or questions or discussion, we will call the motion to question. And I will read it out for the record. The council appoint Nora Allen to the Hinton Municipal Library Board for a 3-year term. The council appoint Eric Johnson to the Hinton Municipal Library Board for a 3-year term. The council appoint Hayden Amenrud to the Hinton Youth Advisory Council for a 1-year term. The council appoint Amelia Burley to the Hinton Youth Advisory Council for a 1-year term. The council appoints Sabrina Crispane, I believe, to the Hinton Youth Advisory Council for a 1-year term. The council appoints Sterling Moselle to the Hinton Youth Advisory Council for a 1-year term. The council appoint Jada Orr to the Hinton Youth Advisory Council for a 1-year term. The council appoint Hiral Tangri to the Hinton Youth Advisory Council for a 1-year term. The council appoint Madison Testo to the Hinton Youth Advisory Council for a 1-year term. The council appoint Adeline Zimmerman to the Hinton Youth Advisory Council for a 1-year term. The council appoint George Shantz to the Beaver Boardwalk Oversight Committee for a 2-year term. That council appoint Beth McCallum to the Beaver Boardwalk Oversight Committee for a 2-year term. Council, all those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, council. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to also now make the motion that council direct administration to continue to advertise for remaining open committee positions and to bring any applications back to a committee meeting for appointment at a future council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Did you want to speak to it?
If I could, please, thank you. The Beaver Oversight Committee, we have 8, I believe, spots. We've got 3 board members now with these 2 appointees. We have 1 currently still on. I encourage everyone to take a look at, the opportunity. And I know that some other boards I know the Youth Board Advisory Council may be interested. There is a youth position there. So hopefully someone from there can also apply. I do have a question for administration before moving on, though. To administration, I mean, our terms of reference is quite specific on different categories of the community or people we're looking for. Is there any appetite potentially to look at that terms of reference in the future as to maybe looking at more or having positions of abroad, or looking at maybe the construction of that board at that time?
Administration.
Through the chair, I would leave the appetite to come from council if that is something that we want to take a look at. Now, my passing knowledge of those terms of reference is that it is relatively prescriptive on the skill sets that we are looking for, that there's certainly a possibility that may have contributed towards that low amount of people putting their names forward. So certainly willing to bring that forward for that discussion if those are council's wishes.
Thank you. If I may follow up.
Do you see open asset, Councillor Haas?
Yeah, and so with that, I guess I'm willing to remain status quo for now to see what the future and applications that come in. But if we're not seeing any, then I hope it's council's will to take a look at and pull those terms of reference open and relook at them. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, we do have a motion before us regarding this. And so if we could keep comments, questions constrained to the motion, please. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll step down until we pass this motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Race. Council, anyone else who'd like to speak to the motion? So I'd speak to it quickly. I think this is important that we continue to advertise for the open positions, especially with the Beaver Boardwalk having an allowance for up to 8 members. And currently, I believe, including the council position, there would only be 4. So some additional, it's 8 public members, isn't it? So so there's quite a few vacancies that could be filled. So I think it's important to keep advertising for this. Any of the past board members who may have decided to step back to give someone else a chance, there was opportunity for them. So if you do have any interest in stepping back up and putting your name in as a board member moving forward, that would be great too. Speaking to the suggestion that maybe we take a look at the terms of reference and maybe look at some options to maybe make them less prescriptive. I actually think that that would be a good idea, and I would appreciate if somebody wanted to put forward a motion to have it come to committee of the whole to take a look at that. I'm saying that because even during the term of the last Beaver Boardwalk Oversight Committee, it was challenging to fill vacant positions through the term, and I believe, I myself believe it is because, or it could certainly a contributing factor, that it is pretty prescriptive about who can apply to be on that committee. So I think maybe taking a look at it and maybe opening it up to potentially allow some more members at large might be beneficial in being able to fill that committee out. So hopefully that we might be able to see that motion after this one's dealt with. Council, are there any other comments? Anyone would like to speak to the motion? Okay, seeing nothing further from council then. If we could call to question the motion that council direct administration to continue to advertise for remaining open committee positions and to bring any applications back to the committee meeting for an appointment at a future council meeting. Council, if you could please vote now. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Council, is there anything further? Councillor Race?
Thank you, sir. In regards to what we're looking at right now, I believe number 4 should reflect Emily Burlett instead of Amelia Burley.
Sorry, I guess that would be to administration, and we can just verify.
Yeah, through the chair, we'll take care of that as a housekeeping item.
So if I may, then it was, according to the vote, it was Emily.
It is. I think the only difference is that we have it spelt as Burley and not Burlett on our, so that's what we reflected. So it's just a spelling error. We'll make sure that we have the proper spelling of that name.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Councillor Race. Councillor Haas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I will make the motion then that I'd like to move that we the council direct administration to bring back to a committee of the whole meeting the terms of reference for the Beaver Boardwalk Oversight Committee for review.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. We'll just give administration a second to capture that.
If I may.
Mhm.
Just to add to a committee of the whole meeting, the council direct administration will bring back the terms of reference to a committee of the whole meeting for the Beaver Boardwalk Oversight Committee review.
Good with that, Councillor Haas?
Yes.
Did you want to speak?
Yeah, if I could just quickly speak to it, this is I think the newest of our committees. It's been 2 years now. We've seen how it worked and can get some feedback from the members, plus take a look at those references and see if they are serving the purpose that they were intended for. And if it means maybe being less prescriptive, then we can have that conversation. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Haas. Councillor Taylor?
I'll vote for that. I think there's probably a variety of reasons why maybe you're not getting a lot of members for the Beaver Boardwalk Committee. And other than just being prescriptive, though some of the other reasons might be that the committee's made some significant decisions in the life of the boardwalk and that people see decisions in the future not being as significant as the ones that are being in the past. So maybe that's another reason why they might not want to be on a committee that they think doesn't have a lot of major decisions to make, but there could be lots of reasons. So thanks.
Thank you for that, Councillor Taylor. Council? I'd speak to it really quickly. I mean, I'm obviously in support of this. It was something I was hoping was going to come forward. I think one of the things with the Beaver Boardwalk Oversight Committee, it was a brand new committee 2 years ago, and everybody was appointed for a 2-year term. So the unfortunate fact is, other than the one member who joined partway through the term, everybody's term expired at the same time. So it's pretty challenging to fill that many positions all at once. To Councillor Taylor's point, though, too, being the past chair and council member for the Beaver Boardwalk Oversight Committee, I can assure anybody who might want to join, there is plenty of good work to be done yet and plenty of decisions, legitimate decisions about the future of the boardwalk that still need to be made to be able to drive it forward and get it back to the jewel that it was at one time that Hinton was so proud of. So thank you for that. Well, if there's no one else, council, anyone else would like to speak to it? If no one else, we'll call the question. Okay, seeing no one, will call to question the motion that council direct administration to bring back the terms of reference to a committee of the whole meeting for the Beaver Boardwalk Oversight Committee for review. Council, all those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Council, is there anything further for the public board member boards and committees appointments agenda item? Okay, seeing nothing further, we will move on to item 4.3, council board and committee appointments. CEO Panasic.
Through the chair to council, we're recommending that council approves the 23-24 councillor boards and committee appointments as presented. On page 34 of your package, you'll see all of the different council representations as recommended by the deputy mayor.
Yep, thank you, CEO Panasic. Council, any comments or questions or proposed motions? Councillor Taylor?
Just a question. The mayor's board appointment seemed particularly heavy, and I'm a bit concerned about that because I want to set the mayor up for success. You know, there's some things I think that we have to concentrate on getting us connected with decision makers in Edmonton, getting us very strategic and other things. And if you've got too heavy a committee workload, that detracts from that. Is there any appetite to move at least one of these over to maybe the new Councillor X? The FCSSAA could be moved over, and that would allow our mayor the best chance of success in the future.
Did you want to make that as a motion, Councillor?
I move that we move the committee assignment from the mayor, the FCSSAA committee assignment, to Councillor X for those reasons I said.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. So council, we do have a motion before us to change one of the committee appointments. Council, if there's anyone who would like to speak to the motion. Oh, sorry, Councillor Taylor, sorry, we'll just make sure administration captures that, and then if you could let us know if that was what you were looking for.
Yeah, I think that's close enough.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will not be supporting this motion. In looking at this, we've got 4 committees that he's assigned to, or she, and 1 alternate. Some of these might meet 2 times a year. So I don't think it's a heavy burden, what we're giving the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Sorry, I have myself in queue. I'm not particularly familiar with what FCSSAA council representation on their committee does. Councillor Race, you're currently, I believe you're currently on that committee, correct? Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about what the FCSSAA committee does?
When I look at that, I think of the big convention that we're going to in November, and there we would make resolutions, decisions for FCSS. We have meetings about our FCSS in our community. It's not a great time-consuming committee. In a very important committee, but it's not one that's going to take a lot of time.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Haas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, that's my understanding too, as the alternate. It may be a couple of conferences, one in particular in November, but it isn't a huge, I think I'd prefer, these are strategically assessed by the mayor of last year and and I think there's some strategic reasons for why the mayor is on these particular committees. So I would be more comfortable leaving as is. It doesn't stop us if the future mayor decides and wants to make some changes, we can make changes in midterm. So I'd be comfortable leaving as is, letting the future mayor make decisions based on workload and things like that as well. So I won't be in favor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Haas. As for myself, I'm in agreement. I appreciate the insight that Councillor Race was able to provide in what the committee does. The committees that the mayor is assigned to on the council representation sheet, some of them are mandatory that the mayor is one of the council representatives, 3 of them. The other 2, I feel, and the past mayor felt that it's beneficial to have the mayor be the council spokesperson on those positions, and that would be Evergreen Foundation Board and FCSSAA. FCSS is a big component in our community, and it's an important part of our community. I feel it's important that the council representation is the mayor for that one. That's why I'm not going to be in favor of the motion that's before us right now. That aside, I did take the liberty of removing one of the mayor's past representations. The mayor was also on the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority as one of the council representatives, and I took the mayor off of that and moved that responsibility to Councillor X, who's the councillor who will be elected in the by-election that's coming up. So it is already reduced by 1 in terms of the mayor's committee workload. And as Councillor Haas said, at some point in the future, if the elected mayor finds that the workload is too much to bear, this committee's appointments can always be revisited and changes could be made at that point. Thank you. Council, is there anyone else who would like to speak to the motion? Okay, seeing no one who'd like to speak, would like to call to question the motion that committee assignment of the mayor to Councillor X for the FCSSAA board. Council, yeah, we might need to fix the wording of that. Councillor Taylor, did you want to adjust the wording of that?
Well, I'm sensing that it's not going to get approved anyways.
Okay,
So probably waste of time.
well, we have to vote to withdraw it, or we can just vote on the motion. Either way, we have to do a vote of some type.
I'd vote on the motion.
So, sorry, Councillor Taylor, is that the motion that you made then?
That council moved the committee assignment of the mayor to Councillor X. The council moved the committee assignment of the mayor to Councillor X for the FCS AA board. It was really to Councillor X, but that's good enough.
Yeah, I think administration and council has an understanding of the
Yeah, that's
intent.
fine.
Okay. Okay, council, so we'll put it back to the floor again. Are there any comments or questions regarding the motion? Okay, seeing nothing from council then, There's a motion that council move the committee assignment of the mayor to Councillor X for the FCSSAA board. Council, all those in favor? And opposed? And that was defeated 3-1 with Councillor Taylor voting in favor. Councillor Huss,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that council approve the 2023 to 2024 boards and committees appointments as presented.
thank you, Councillor Huss. Did you want to speak to it?
Just quickly, I appreciate acting mayor, taking this on and, being mindful, moving. I definitely agree with the move of the mayor off of the waste management group. I think 2 councillors is fair to be on that. And I think it's a good balance of committees for all the parties. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Councillor Huss. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I kind of want to repeat what Councillor Hawes has said. We have 13 committees and boards. You were very fair. I know you talked to all of us about our thoughts, so I'm in agreement with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, anyone else who would like to speak to the motion? Okay, seeing no one, we will call to question the motion that council approve the 2023-2024 councillor boards and committee appointments as presented. Council, all those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. And that brings us to the last item, if there's nothing further. Item 5.1, call for adjournment. Councillor Hawes.
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor? And our organizational meeting for 2023 is adjourned. We'll take a 5-minute recess and then we will reconvene for regular meeting of council. Thank you. Are we recording? Okay. All right. Like to call today's regular council meeting to order. The town of Hinton respectfully acknowledges that it is located on the First Peoples traditional lands. We recognize this traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walk this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibility to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all the First Peoples and nations that call this place home. The town expresses gratitude for the opportunity to build a better community on these sacred lands for generations to come. And with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Council, are there any changes to the agenda for a regular council meeting? Councillor Taylor.
I would like to suggest that we get rid of topic, we take 7.1 rural renewal stream. Sorry, I haven't been drinking. Rural renewal stream off the agenda because we had an update on that before. So if we can get rid of that, I would recommend that.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Taylor. Did you want to make a motion to remove for the rural renewal stream 7.1?
Yeah, I recommend that we remove 7.1 from the agenda.
It has to be moved to recommend and then we vote on it.
I move that we remove 7.1 from the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Go to administration. Should we be all signed into the Civic Web?
Right there.
I'll need a minute to get signed in then. We could get that motion though. I'm in, yeah. Is the rest of council signed into Civic Web? Okay. We have a motion to remove 7.1 rural renewal stream from the agenda. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing no comments or questions, council, if you could please vote now. And that's carried unanimously, so we will remove item 7.1 from today's agenda meeting. Council, are there any other changes to the agenda for today? Okay, seeing no other changes from council administration, are there any changes?
Through the chair, we would like to put forward one emergent item on 6.7 replacement of CPO vehicle unit 208.
Sorry, what's the action item? Sorry.
That will be 6.7, and the topic is the replacement of CPO vehicle unit 208.
Okay, thank you, CEO Panasic. Council, there is a request from administration to add action item 6.7. Somebody, Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to add to the agenda under action item 6.7 as recommended by the administration.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, we have a motion to add item 6.7. Are there any comments or questions? Okay, seeing no comments or questions from council, if we could please vote now. That is carried unanimously, so we will add item 6.7 to today's agenda. Thank you. Administration, are there any other changes to the agenda?
That's all from administration.
Okay, thank you. Council, we would need a motion to adopt. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move that we adopt the amended regular council agenda for October 17th, 2023.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Race. Council, are there any comments or questions regarding the motion? Seeing none, there is a motion that council adopt the agenda as amended. Council, could you please vote now? And that is also carried unanimously. That brings us to council minutes for adoption, 3.1, regular council meeting for October 3rd and committee of the whole for October 10th. We would need a motion from council to adopt those. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that we adopt the regular council minutes for October 3rd, 2023, and the committee of the whole meeting minutes for October 10th, 2023.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, are there any comments or questions regarding the motion? Okay, seeing none. The call to question the motion that council adopt the minutes from the regular council meeting from October 3rd, 2023, and the committee of the whole meeting from October 10th, 2023. Council, if you could please vote now. That is also carried unanimously. That brings us to agenda item 4, citizens minute with council. Is there anyone here today who would like to come forward and take a minute with council to discuss any thoughts that you may have? Okay, seeing no one in attendance that wants to speak to council, is there anyone via Zoom who would like to address council?
There are none.
Thank you. That brings us to agenda item 5, delegations and presentations. And just before we get started, I just want to take a minute to remind all the delegations that are here today. We have a big agenda and 2 meetings today. So I just want to remind all the delegations that there is a 10-minute time limit presentation. And if you're getting close, I will let you know. We want to make sure that there's ample time for the presentation and any questions from council. And with that, we would like to get started with 5.1, Hinton Historical Society, presented by Margaret Schultz.
Hello. Thank you as always for having us. I'm Margaret Schultz, the Operations and Programming Manager at the Northern Rockies Museum. And I'm joined by Andrew Godself, who is one of our board members on the Hinton Historical Society.
Introduction. The Hinton Historical Society's mission is to collect and share the unique history of this area in ways that engage and educate. Through this mission, the Northern Rockies Museum has become a cultural cornerstone of Hinton. We're here to make life in Hinton better for citizens as we work to preserve our heritage and deepen the sense of belonging residents have for this community. We are an established tourist operator, hosting visitors from all over the world to give them a personalized experience of Hinton. Through these important operations, which are only possible through the civic agency funding, the Northern Rockies Museum forms an integral part of Hinton's amazing community connections and quality of life.
So in preparing our civic agency presentation, we found that we did an awful lot this year, and we cannot present in detail on everything. We created a package for you, which you should have, that goes with this presentation. And at the end, there's a list of our activities as they relate directly to our service agreement with the town. So please refer to that for details. In this presentation, we've chosen to highlight four things: four successes, our visitors, the Peterson Papers Project, our school programs, and our volunteers. So to start with our visitors, I'll just let them speak for themselves for a second. People have been so very kind to us. This year, we were happy to welcome visitors from all over the world, and each of them, if they wished, received a personalized tour, which is a really good example of our work as an established tourist operator. People look for a museum, they come to us, and they're always surprised and delighted at the depth of experience and connection that they find at our small museum. This year, since our last presentation, we've hosted over 1,800 visitors, which is almost a double of our numbers last year. So that's a huge success for us. Second success to highlight: throughout the year, we've talked to all of you about our work with the Peterson Papers. So we successfully cataloged and partially digitized historian Tom Peterson's research collection this winter. And this project was entirely grant and donation funded, but it's important to highlight that it wouldn't have been possible without civic agency funding, because that's what gives us the background stability and the supervision that's needed to do a special project like this. It was quite exciting when it caught the attention of CBC Radioactive and we got interviewed on the radio. And it also became a wonderful partnership with the Coal Branch Archives, because their database and their collection space helps us preserve this collection permanently. Thirdly, our programs. We do a lot of school programs. They're all unique. For instance, let me take you on a trip through my first museum. Shrink yourself down to a little 6-year-old arriving at the museum, and you are very excited, and even more excited when you find you get to do a different activity in every room of the museum. And then it closes with a riotous game of railway signal, red light, green light in the parking lot, which always gets out of control in a very good way. So our programs are all curriculum linked so that teachers can check off curriculum objectives when they're with us. And the top word they use to describe our programs is hands-on, which is exactly what we want to be doing. And the last success we wanted to highlight was our volunteers, because our volunteer program grew this year. We have this small but very mighty group of volunteers who have also found a spot at the museum that complements their interests and gifts. And we've been amazed at the things they've managed to do, from beautifying the grounds to digitizing papers to designing our strategic plan and our Christmas tree. That's why there's a 4-year-old on the slide, because he decorated the Christmas tree and I did not have to do it.
Okay, I'll speak to our challenges. We organize our challenges into 3 categories: people and staff, location, and maintaining meaningful connections. First, our people resources are small. Our single permanent staff oversees all of the activities we have mentioned. We're proud to do a lot with a few people, but there is a limit to what we can do. Our location is another challenge, as even locals struggle to find the museum. This challenge has been mitigated this fall, as we have just purchased and installed a new highway visible sign. We also actively update our location on Google and Apple Maps when visitors report difficulty finding us. Finally, we must work continually to maintain meaningful connections in the community. Our partnerships this year have been successful. We must maintain our momentum with current partnerships and find new organizations to partner with. We also must work perpetually to ensure our programs and events remain relevant and respond to community needs and desires. And I can go over financial highlights. The Historical Society has achieved strong financial results this year. We have ended our fiscal year to May 2023 in the black. We were successful in accessing grant funding and donations to complete the Peterson Papers project. We achieved increases in visitors, programs, and community engagement. Our fundraising revenue included proceeds from working a casino, an opportunity that will not be accessible again until 2025. The core funding provided by the town is essential to fulfill the museum's mandate and expand programming. Our budget and actual numbers are included in your packages.
So to move on to this coming year, we are going to simply continue and continue to improve and expand what we do. We have in-house exhibits and traveling exhibits in the works. We will continue with our drop-in and our school programs and also hope to start doing programming for seniors. There's also a new elementary school curriculum being rolled out, and we're going to restructure our programs to make sure that they continue to align with curriculum because that's absolutely essential to what we're doing. And we have an artifact collection project underway. Another grant-funded employee is already at work to catalog our artifacts. So we have lots of exciting plans, which again are dependent on stable civic agency funding to achieve. Although we would like to highlight what we've done this year with grants and fundraising. We were really successful with grants this past year, getting almost $30,000 for special projects. But as I said, it's almost impossible to get funding for core operations. So that's why we operate as a civic agency, to have that funding to match grants and also have what we need to continue operations while we can achieve these really amazing projects. And we have fundraising projects in the works as well. Our fundraising efforts for this year focus on activities and events that are unique, locally based learning opportunities with a heritage and culture twist. So an example of that is our blacksmithing workshops that we did this spring that were really successful. And we have some other things in the works as well.
Yeah, I'll speak to our proposed budget. The Historical Society is suggesting having a 3-year funding agreement in place. This will give stability for planning purposes to both the Hinton Historical Society Board and to the Town Council. Our requested amount for the 3 years is $75,000 per year. This will allow the board to expand programming, maintain staffing levels, meet rising costs, and fulfill our mandate with the town of Hinton. Thank you for your time. We are ready for your questions.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. Council, we now have an opportunity to ask questions. Councillor Taylor.
Oh, I love your sign. But my question, normally with your presentation, we get like a financial summary of revenues and expenses. Some sort of summary in the past. I remember getting that. Can we get something like that to help with our decision?
The budget should have been in your package.
So I don't believe that it was included in the public.
Oh, you did send it.
package
Okay, and it
we
didn't
got,
get to us.
so
All right, that's fine.
To administration.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. We'll just look to administration to see if they can help with that.
And
Through the chair, just the presentation was included in the package, so we can ensure that as a part of the budget process, that'll be included for council's consideration.
Thank you for that. Yeah, is that okay, Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, I had one more question.
Yep, go ahead.
What have we given you in the past?
so our last year's 1-year funding agreement was for $55,000.
We give you 55?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation. And I too love the sign. I can see it a mile away. I wanted to ask you about your school program, or how many little kids are impacted by the museum?
So this past spring, we delivered programs to 446 elementary school students. I believe I did some estimates looking at the school websites to see how many elementary school students are in Hinton. I think there's about 1,000. So we delivered programs to about 50% of Hinton's elementary school students this year, which I see as a huge achievement because we upped our numbers by 150, and it was also just me delivering the programs. So obviously, in an ideal world, we will host every single student in Hinton, but we're slowly achieving that goal.
And one more, if I may, quickly.
Yep.
I'm seeing now you're offering like axe building or forging classes, and you've got something coming up on the 20th and 21st, fire building and candles. Where'd that come from? Because it seems to be very popular.
Well, as per, so I'll check with administration to see how much you got of the package I sent. As per our service agreement with the town, part of it is to provide drop-in programming on days off school as well as school programs. And so I look at the school calendar, I mark down when the PD days are, and then I try and offer something in the afternoons on those days so that people can pop by with their kids. And so those programs come from my brain. I have education and experience in heritage programming. And so for this next Friday and Saturday, I sat down, I looked at fall things. I was perhaps a little chaotic because I was getting ready for this. And I found an idea for an extremely cute autumn themed candle. And then I will hopefully also tie some educational aspect to it. When I come up with drop-in programming, that's always the goal, to find something fun that will suit multiple interests. So it's not always crafty. Sometimes it's more active, but then also with a bit of a heritage, culture, or natural history emphasis so that it isn't just, like going to the playground. So yeah, that's where it comes from.
Thank you very much. I got to say, I'm on your committee, your board, and it is a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reese. Council, are there any other comments or questions for the Historical Society? Okay, seeing nothing else from council, then just want to take an opportunity to thank you for your presentation today.
Thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure to present to you.
Thanks. Okay, and that brings us to our second delegation today, item 5.2, Hinton Municipal Library Board, presented by Hank Schmidt.
Yeah.
Great, welcome, whenever you're ready.
Well, good evening, everyone. Sorry, it's good morning somewhere, Stuart, but again, it's good to see you all again. It's been a very active year for us. Every year we do come in front of you guys with a requisition. And yeah, this one was developed with the help of council as well in mind. So you guys did have a committee of the whole meeting about the library finances and made some recommendations for us, which have been carefully managed by our side with the help of Trevor, of course. Thank you, Mr. Haas, for that. And so this is the fruits of our labor. And so moving forward, we'll get started with the presentation. Oh, actually, that'd be my slide. Of course, I said I was going to do this slide. As most of you already know, and that I am also board chair of YRL. This first slide has to do with YRL. YRL, as a contract, of course, is a master membership agreement with the town of Hinton for services provided. This helps get books to our location, also helps us purchase the materials that we need for our library and all that stuff. And in this, you see what Hinton does. Hinton residents are active users of the library. And through all this, we have seen we have configured an ROI of $12.77 for every dollar that the municipality spends within it. So it's a great deal. It's a good news to see all that. One of the things I'd like to bring to your attention is that we've been using YRL services even more. Just recently, Shannon and her staff closed the library and got, how can I say, one-on-one maybe type of training at YRL to help explain what their services are to find even more, how can I say, value for what we pay. And so that's one of the biggest things that this slide should see as well. Okay.
Perfect. So I just like to go over some of the highlights for some of the things that we've been able to do so far in 2023. So to start off with, we all know that the library caters towards the readers in the community, but that's not the only people that are able to make use of our services. So you might be surprised to see that we also have had auditions for Break a Leg Theater take place in our library. We have a seed library available for the gardeners in the community, as well as some programs that take place at the community garden center. We have coding and robotics kits that were taken again from YRL that we just mentioned. We brought those over to Mountain View School and watched them just be teenagers with it. So that was a lot of fun. We've hosted a writer from Jasper recently, and we plan to host writers from Hinton as well to promote some of the local authorship that we have. We've also received a $25,000 grant from the province for skill development in Alberta. And so this will be providing education and e-resources primarily catered towards trades education in Hinton. And so that way, we hope that people will be able to stay with their families a little bit more while they work on getting Red Seal certification and just providing a little bit of support for them while they go down the career path. We even have connections with hockey. We had a skate between our library patrons and the Timberwolves. So we go beyond books in many ways. Some of our usage statistics, our patrons have saved a total of $375,973 this year. Over 12% of Hinton's population has an active library card. This is going to be even higher next year as we prepare initiatives to promote library memberships even more. There's a lot of services we offer that don't require library cards. So it's many people that use their spaces that maybe don't have a membership. And so we're going to be promoting some more of the memberships next year as well. As you can see, from how much our patrons have borrowed from 2022 to 2023, almost all across the board, there's increases in how much people are borrowing. Kids books, adult books, movies, video games, young adult books, huge jumps in all of those. The virtual items, I think people have been coming back in person and borrowing a lot of physical items. But as always, that sometimes jumps up in the winter times when people don't want to leave their doors. And we've also had increase in public computer usage as well over the past, since 2021, that's steadily increased every year. And so that's been another huge service that people are almost consistently using our public computers, our printer, scanner, everything like that. They don't have those at home. They're able to go to the library and get those there. We're really proud of a lot of the community collaborations we've been able to have. We're finding every opportunity to work with some of the amazing community organizations here in Hinton. Our biggest ones would probably be FCSS and the Northern Rockies Museum. We're consistently working with them, putting out programs. We're especially working with the archives, as the Hinton Historical Society mentioned. We're working with the Peterson Papers Project, and so we're very excited about that. And just a variety of programs with the Hinton Greenhouse, the Hinton Friendship Center, Evergreens. We're providing naloxone training through Options, HIV West Yellowhead, and we're consistently putting out the Dolly Parton Imagination Library as well, where we have 330 Hinton kids currently getting free books every single month. And almost 700 kids have graduated from that program so far. Next, going on to some of the highlights from our library program so far this year. So from those pictures, as you can see, every single one of those pictures includes a collaboration. So the first one, that was the wood burning, was actually a kit that we got from YRL. So again, that was something that we were able to borrow, expanding the resources beyond our doors. We had the choir in for St. Patrick's performance. We worked with FCSS to provide the Little Buds community garden, where they grew just all sorts of things. The Family Resource Network collaboration, where we had Mothers First. And then we went to the Wellness Fair, where we put on Summer Reading Club crafts. And so then for the Summer Reading Club, we had 47 children's programs throughout the summer with, I believe it was 330 participants that joined across all of those programs for the summer. And Hinton logged 71,417 minutes of reading this summer, which is pretty good. And then for what Hinton's saying about the library. So a lot of this came from our library satisfaction survey from last year. So we put this out every year just to see what people are saying, what can we do to improve. And so we got a lot of positive feedback from that. The wordle in the middle is the key words from the question, how do you feel the library benefits this community? So the big ones, people, books, reading, knowledge, resources, access, all sorts of things. So that's what people of Hinton are saying that the library provides to the community. We've got some wonderful cards from some of our patrons that we leave on our fridge that we're very glad to have a very personal relationship with our patrons that we're very happy to have. So finally getting into the 2024 plans. So in regards to that conversation we've had about the reserves, we do want to use some of that surplus that we have to give back to the community essentially. And so the big projects that we are pursuing for 2024 is a refurnishing project. So that is primarily going to be directed at the children's area of the library, which has a lot of outdated furniture, outdated shelving. We want to make it a more welcoming space that provides a lot more options for parents and families and the kids there to have places to read and play with one another and feel like they can use that space, as well as more study areas. We're seeing a lot of people that are coming in to work on things after school, to work on some self-education, people who are just coming in through town, and they'll come and use one of our study rooms every single day as they're coming by. So we want to provide even more spaces and options for them. And then the other big one is the archives project. So we wanted to get a new microfilm reader so that we can increase the amount of research that people are able to do into past newspapers. We're getting new shelving to make more efficient use of the space within the Cold Branch archives, as well as a research desk so that we can provide a space for what we hope will be the temporary archivists next year who will come in. They will help to organize the material within the archives, and they will help to work with some of the digitization, especially for the Peterson Papers project, to make sure that that is accessible and available and understandable for the people of this community, so that we don't just have to have it in this room full of stuff, so that people are able to actually access it from their own homes. And so we're very excited about that.
I don't want to interrupt, but we are running up on 10 minutes. So
Oh gosh,
yeah,
okay,
no, that's okay. We just want to make sure there's lots of time for.
It's only
absolutely.
2 slides, so
Yeah.
we're good.
The strategic plans, essentially, we're aligning ourselves with development and tourism plans of the town of Hinton, and then onto the budget.
Okay, first of all, when it comes to our reserve, I don't know if Trevor has informed you all, but we now have a reserve policy. Okay, which we never had before. Also, second thing we've also done is that we voted during our last meeting that any overages or unspent money in our budget from the previous year be moved to the following year. Okay, which is different. Okay, so again, that was voted on and it was accepted by the board as well. And so if we go over budget, under budget, and we have an overage, it goes into the following year's ask. And that was 2 things definitely that were asked by the committee of the whole. And first of all, the Hinton board, library board would like to thank not only all of the council and the mayor for coming, but also for administration's help with all this. And we couldn't have done this without their help, especially Alicia and of course Deb in the back there. They were big help when it came to doing this. And so again, thank you for helping us during this time. You can see what our asks are as well. And I believe you have the full budget document from a previous meeting as well. Okay, so any questions?
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation. Council, do we have any questions or comments for the Hinton Municipal Library? Councillor Taylor?
These capital and operational project levels seem to be historic by amount. And to my knowledge, they weren't there 6 months ago. So how well developed are they? What's the chance of them going ahead in 2024?
Well, they were, let me just pull that up. So the furnishing project, especially, that was based on estimates from a company that we worked with called All West Furnishings. And they've done for Edmonton Public Library as well. And so we worked with them to get those estimates for the initial ideas. And the archives project, those are all quoted out just based on the research. And so we got quotes from microfilm for the microfilm reader company as well, and for the new shelving. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
I think which we were trying to say, Stuart, is that these projects, especially with the archives, we have not spent very much money in the archives other than since the adaptation of coming over into the library. These are all things to make life easier for everyone. When it comes to the archive project, digitization, which was started by the museum, is something that we're going, why the heck don't we have this already? Because we have one guy working part-time dealing with all the questions when it comes to archives. He can only maybe take 2 questions a month and do the research for. Okay, so with this, we have so much in the archives. With this help of this archivist, we'll be able to help digitize it and manage it, at least know what we have. And so, and this continues from the Peterson papers. There's many things that we need to do. I remember Joanne going through that a few months ago. Well, that was last year, I think it was, Joanne, and actually pulling off an old Cadomin yearbook. Remember that? Yeah, that was amazing. And there's so much of that that hasn't been digitized that needs to be digitized because again, we can't have too many fingers touching those pages, put it that way, right?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation. Books are so important. Books are so important. But I got to tell you, when I saw that sewing machine sitting there, I'm going, this library it's not just books. You have 2 sewing machines there. So and not just sewing machines. What's that machine that does that
Embroidery.
engraving?
Embroidery machine.
And this embroidery machine
Yeah,
and a sewing machine,
yes, but you also have another,
Printer,
3D printer.
Yeah.
that, awesome.
popular.
So, good work and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, are there any other comments or questions for the library board? Councillor Taylor.
12% of the population having a library card. How does that compare to other towns?
Jasper was at about 14% and can't recall what Edson was, but it maybe 16% is my estimate.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happened a few years ago, Stuart, is that YRL decided to go through all the registrations or people that actually had a library card and clean them up. And mandated that our library do the same thing.
Okay.
And so we're getting more active numbers. The active users may be only 12%, but as you can tell through our circulation numbers, they are really intensive readers now. So, and intensive people. This does not show people that actually sign up for say a program. Okay, they do not need to have a library card, even though it's free, and we've got rid of late charges. And so really, there's no reason for anyone, if everyone's listening now, to get a library card. But that's to be, so that's average. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you guys for coming. I think another thing to highlight for council, we've gone through a lot of exercises in regards to our finances recently. We've had an exercise of looking at our fees and looking at increasing some of those fees. They have been set for a very long time. We needed to make them still accessible, but needed to recover some of those costs. So we went through that exercise. We've had a great deal of conversation over the reserve policy. And I think, again, highlighting the fact that in the past, surplus would go into our reserves is no longer the case. They will go directly back to next year's operational budget. So we've gone through some great exercises and strides, and thank to Shannon and her crew to do that and to bring that into the board to make those decisions. So, we've been really trying to clean things up financially. Programs are great, but we also need to be on that part more efficient. So we've made a lot of strides there. So thank you guys. And thank you, council.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, any other comments or questions? Seeing nothing else from council, just want to take the opportunity to thank you for your presentation today.
Thank you so much. Apologies for going over time.
And that brings us to 5.3, the Hinton and District Chamber of Commerce, presented by Tyler Waugh. Yes. All right, well, welcome. You need a minute to figure out the system there.
Here we go.
Got it? All right. Whenever you guys are ready.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe I'll just
Yep.
introduce myself too. Jessica Zimmer, President of the Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for having us. In the interest of time, we might just breeze through most of our PowerPoint, so we've got enough time for questions. Okay. So this is just some highlights of what our Visitor Information Center offers to our community. So we have the seasonal staff that have kind of wrapped up for the year. And we've now just got Tyler managing for the off season. So we're with our service agreement, we're 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and occasionally having to shut down here and there to accommodate Tyler's schedule for other chamber matters as well.
Through the summer, it's 6 days a week, 9 to 5, and then on Fridays, it's 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Come on now. Excellent. All right, so just a brief overview of visitation from May to September. And that is, we had about 3,163 or 25 parties per day. And parties is the number of groups that come through the door. Could be one person, could be 5 or 6. And the number of individuals was 5,267 or 43 per day. And that's down from 2022. One of the things we wanted to highlight that hasn't really been highlighted before was September's continue to be incredibly busy through the shoulder season. 1,067 visitors last year, 747 this year.
So I'll just touch on the majority of our travelers are local Canadians, Albertans. So we do, of course, have folks from all over. We've got Europe, we've got outside of that as well, but the majority do tend to be local to the area, with the final destination being mostly to Jasper and Banff.
They're on their way through.
Yeah.
One of the observations that the summer staff had this year was that more and more visitors actually from Africa, which is something that was unique. And just to give an idea what who we see at the center and what we're chronicling as far as what they're doing and asking about in town. One of the motifs for Hinton has always been stay another day. And if you look at the numbers, there are quite a few parties that are coming through and staying at least a couple nights. 472 multi-night stays that were chronicled. And a lot more people are talking about the fact that they've been to Jasper repeatedly and they kind of want to explore outside of Jasper a little bit more now. And we're seeing more visitation up and down Highway 40, actually. So, and one other thing to point out is while they're in there, we are referencing them to different attractions and adventures, accommodations and camping, food and beverage, shopping, even community services through the town of Hinton. All of this creates revenue for businesses in the town. One other thing we wanted to touch on was kind of taking it back a few years. And historically, the Visitor Information Center, the summer operations were funded by Travel Alberta to the tune of about 77,000. And that usually covered mid-May to October. A few years ago, that funding was removed across a number of VICs across the province, and Hinton was affected as well. And credit to the town of Hinton for stepping forward and ponying up $30,000 for summer operations to go along with the off-season funding that they provided for off-season visitor information staffing. So that's just a summary of how we got to here. And that just kind of sets the table for, this past year, we did a deeper dive into the books as to what the actual costs were. I think in reality, the town and the chamber in good faith got something in place quick to make sure that summer visitation was staffed the way it needed to be. And this is really the first year we kind of took a look at what those actual costs are. So on this slide here, it goes through kind of the summary of some of the direct staffing costs that just for the summer. And the reason we had to take a look at it this year is because up until this year, we were fortunate enough to be successful with some job grants, which kind of glossed over some of the real costs. And that's why it hasn't really been presented to the town before. But we were unsuccessful this year. So, that kind of caused us to, again, do a real analysis of what the real costs were. Something else we found this year was we hired 4 staff to start the year. We lost one at the end of June, and another one took on another job partway through the summer. It kind of limited some of our capacity staff-wise, which impacted some of the chamber staff as well as they tried to step in to fill the gaps. It also impacted some of the things we were able to provide. So speaking with my predecessor, Natalie Charlton, she had indicated that staff wages for the summer have actually not gone up in several years, which was probably probably a smart move considering the fiscal restraints there were. But ultimately, we just wanted to bring it to the town's attention, because if we're losing staff and not able to provide the services that we're hoping to provide, again, we just wanted to start a conversation about what the operating realities are right now. Just some other aspects of the service agreement that, that it was worth talking about, again, because we're starting a conversation, was some of the enhanced costs of actually paying for heat, electricity for a building of that size. And that's something that the chamber takes on as part of the lease agreement. The visitor guide, which is specifically mentioned in the service agreement, is something that lost a fair amount of money that the chamber covered last year. Now, usually it does make a little bit of a profit, but again, I think we're just trying to highlight some of the volatility and some of the risks that the chamber takes on. Which kind of takes us to our ask for 2024. At the recommendation of administration, they asked us to include the $1,800 that the town had provided as an event sponsor from last year. And then the other 2 items are just related to some of the things we found with a deeper dive into the budget. So, Jessica, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I think you've covered most of it. Yeah, thank you. And I think that takes us to the end. If you guys wanted to ask some questions.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys very much for your presentation. We do have a couple counselors in queue with some questions. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you guys for your presentation and all you do for Hinton and bringing visitors and staying another day. I'm really glad that you guys dug into those numbers. I guess my first question would be, is that 30,667 for payroll? How many staff does that cover for the summer staff costs?
That's 4 summer staff.
4 summer staff.
Yeah,
Okay.
including 1 site supervisor.
Okay. And it's been a number of years, you said, before staff wages have increased. So I can, if I may, that it's young people are having a hard enough time, making money, and staying at that wage for that long. It's hard to retain. We're seeing that lots and lots. So I appreciate that. I guess if I may, Mr. Chair, one more question. The visitor guide, what's the biggest cost to the visitor guide that you guys experience?
It's always printing.
Printing,
Yeah, it's the print costs and some of the distribution costs that are associated with it.
right? Okay, great. Thank you.
I think too, we find advertisements from local businesses, and if we're not able to get enough advertisements, more of the cost just comes out of our budget.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Haas, Councillor Taylor.
I've been asked by a couple of taxpayers to ask why the taxpayers should pay for social or promotional events for the chamber or any other group. I think these folks are worried about a couple of things. One, if we start paying for these kind of things, the lineup of people at our door asking for money will be endless. And the other thing they're worried about is if we start paying for these kind of things, then it leaves less money for taxes, which are always a challenge for these kind of folks. And they know that we're members, but they see a difference between, what a taxpayer pays for and what a business person pays for out of his profit. So do you have an answer that I could provide them? I'm talking about the beer, golf, lunches.
I guess I'll speak to it that I think we look at our partnership with the town similar to how we look at some of our other business members. So when we're inviting our town to attend our events, we're expecting them to pay their fair share. But perhaps if you want to add to that.
And ultimately, Councillor Taylor, it's a value proposition that essentially only council can answer for themselves, what value they find in it. And it's a fair question that the taxpayer asked. This again was something that the town took out a sponsorship last year, and we appreciate it. And part of the recommendation from administration was including it in the ask for the upcoming year. So we wanted to include it, and we're happy to do so. But again, as far as individual taxpayers, individual councillors, council as a whole will have, I think, different value propositions for whether they find value in this or not. So, but if we don't ask, you guys can't provide the answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I have no one else in queue right now, but I do have a question regarding the visitor guide. Has there been any thoughts, discussion, negotiation about coming up with an alternate maybe to the printed paper version? And whether there's benefits or drawbacks in getting rid of the paper version?
At the chamber specifically, there hasn't been a discussion as yet. I just started a little over a month ago, and we have a relatively new board, and this is just part of the process of looking at how we're doing everything. And I think honestly, the town has to be part of that conversation because it is part of the service agreement. So again, this is just the start of that broader discussion, I think, and working with Deb and working with Eva on the lease agreement. It's been a good working relationship, but these are the kinds of discussions that, go beyond just a one-off. They're going to be longer term. As far as changing from print to online, it has been brought up at the board table, but we haven't done any deeper research yet as to what that would entail and what our capacity is.
I'm going to ask a follow-up. I don't know if you're able to or want to share, but how many copies of the visitor guide are printed and what's the cost to produce that?
Don't have that off the top of my head, Councillor.
That's understandable.
But I'd be happy to email over those press charges and how much that costs and how many we printed.
I know it's significant, and the fact that you have to rely on filling out all of the advertisers to be able to cover the cost to make it, and that you're obligated to make it regardless of whether you're going to break even, turn a profit, or come up with a loss is a pretty challenging proposition. So I'm looking forward to a report at some point in the future from yourselves or administration on maybe some alternative options that could be put forward regarding the visitor guide. Thanks for that. I have Councillor Taylor.
Well, along that vein, I know a number of businesses are considering brochures or QR codes in the hotels and areas around town. Would that be maybe an alternative to actually printing something to have like a code of our hotels and businesses, and then people can, just check it on their phone like they do a menu or something?
I think we're open to any possibility. The one thing I will say is I've only worked the VIC for a month and a half,
Yeah.
and printed material, while people don't, it's volatile and costly to produce. It's remarkable how many people still appreciate having that hard copy in their hand. With that said, I still think a transition to digital is probably something that has to be explored further sooner than later.
I think if anybody on council, Councillor Taylor appreciates the value of paper. Maybe. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation. When you're unsuccessful for a grant, do they give you reasons why you were not successful?
I believe in this case with the jobs grant, I believe Natalie was provided some explanation. And what she relayed to me was the fact that there just was less money distributed to it was no fault of our application, no fault of, they just said there wasn't as much money distributed to our region this time around. And sometimes that's just the reality of it.
So one quick question. So you will apply again, and then in the spring, you should hear, and that might be between $12,000, $14,000, $16,000.
Yeah, once we get into the process, we'll be able to get a better idea what we can ask for and what we qualify for. I think one of the challenges this year was that Chamber did not receive word about the grant until after the service agreement had been signed, until a number of things had already been set in motion, including the hiring process. And that's unfortunately just the reality we have to deal with. So what we're hoping is that council will consider kind of increased funding for the summer staff. So if we don't get the grant, at least we're not going into the negative. And then if we do get a grant to help cover some of the costs, we'd be open to a conversation about what to do with that money with regards to offsetting the operating grant that the town provides.
And the visitor center is still open?
Absolutely, yep.
Who mans it?
Me right now.
Yeah.
And actually it's been a lot of fun. You get to meet a lot of people from all over the place. And actually learned a lot about the operation from being hands-on for the first month and a half. It was incredibly busy right up until Thanksgiving, except for a couple rainy days there in early October.
You must be getting your steps in.
Yeah, lots of steps up and down those stairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, you're not the only ones that didn't get that grant in our community, and we are seeing, and the question was asked, they're so highly competitive now. I think we really need to seriously consider, that's just gravy. We have to really be considering budgeting and expecting not to get them, because like I said, you're not the only one. And it's just, I guess, soapbox, but another example of downplaying it down to our municipalities, the government not necessarily having the funds to that they once did, or offering what they once did. So yeah, I imagine we're going to see that often happening in the years to come. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Taylor.
I'm wondering about the service agreement. I don't understand that. Well, I just don't know enough about it. So is that coming up? Is that what you're talking about? It's coming due? And how's the service agreement relate to this $4,200 for heat, electricity, and phone? How is that covered in the service agreement? And is the change you're proposing is for the new service agreement? That's the part I'm kind of missing.
There was a new service agreement put in place in March 2023.
Okay,
And it runs through until the end of 2024. And again, that was signed prior to us getting the news about the jobs grant. So that changed the reality of the situation. So that's kind of why we brought it up this fall. We're not looking for any back costs for this year or anything. We're just using those numbers to highlight the challenges we have as far as the costing.
is the electricity and the heat, is that covered in that service agreement, or is that something separate?
So there's essentially two that were combined last year, from my understanding. One was when Travel Alberta pulled out, 30,000 was put forward annually for the summer staffing. And then there's traditionally been an agreement in place between the chamber and the town, dating quite a ways back for winter operation of the visitor center. And then on the other side of that, there's a lease agreement between the town and chamber for the building. And we pay for heat and electricity.
And those are in the agreements that we have with you.
Those are in the agreements, yeah.
Okay.
And there's an agreement currently on the table right now that Eva has sent to us, and that will hopefully run through until the end of 2024 as well. We wanted the dates to coincide so that we're dealing with everything at the same time at the end of the agreement.
And that new agreement's related to the utility costs?
We pay the utilities for the operation of the building. We just pay rent monthly to the town.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
I would also invite administration to chime in if I've spoken out of turn or haven't summarized this correctly.
Administration, anything you want to speak to?
I'll pass that along to Ms. Juke.
Thank you. And through Deputy Mayor to the rest of council. So I think all of the information that Tyler's provided is accurate. I just want to clarify that the civic agency funding is specifically, they have now got a current 3-year agreement started in 2023. And it is for the Visitor Information Center and related services. And just a quick comment about why putting the sponsorship together in this presentation, primarily because the sponsorship doesn't really fit in any other grant funding program that the town has. It has typically come to you through the council as a council contingency ask. It isn't really a contingency because it comes forward every year. So the thought was to at least present it this way and maybe just get some certainty for them, and as well as move it off of the council contingency roster.
Thank you. Council, any further comments, questions? Councillor Taylor.
I'm sorry, I was just slow today. So we have an agreement that says we cover utility costs with you. Do we? No.
No, we pay it. The 4,200 in our ask for 2024 is new. That 4,200 for operational costs specific to electricity and heat is just something we would hope council would consider due to the increase in power and electricity prices.
But we have a lease arrangement with you, right?
Yes, you do.
And that lease arrangement says you pay for this and we pay for that.
Yes,
And utility costs is something that you pay for.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, anything further? Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing no further comments or questions from council, and thank you guys for coming and presenting to us today. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, council.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to item 5.4, community grant fall intake presentation. Welcome, Dustin, William. Nice to see you guys.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Deputy Mayor Stashik and Council. My name is Beth McCollum. I'm a member of the Hinton Grant Funding Advisory Committee for 2023, as well as the Beaver Boardwalk Community Oversight Committee. The other members of the advisory committee for the fall intake are Mike Story from the Library Board, William Kalchuk, also from the Beaver Boardwalk Community Oversight Committee, and Deborah Juke, Director of Communications for the town of Hinton. This report is to present the Hinton Grant Funding Advisory Committee recommendations for community grant awards for the fall of 2023. There were 8 applicants asking for a total of $45,838.42, almost twice the available budget of $24,102. A summary of the 8 groups, their projects, and their requests is found in your attachment. The committee met with the groups on October 2 and closely reviewed the applications on October 11. We found that 3 applications, Iron and Earth, Hinton Indoor Playground, and Alberta Narcissistic Abuse Survivors Foundation, were ineligible for various reasons, such as not providing evidence of having resources to match the grant or having received funding from the spring intake. With those groups eliminated, the remaining 5 applicants were still asking for a total of $29,602, which is $5,500 more than the available budget. One eligible group, the Hinton Minor Football Association, was asking for $10,000, but they can potentially split their project and apply for half in spring 2024. We recommended awarding this group $5,000. We recommended that the other 4 eligible groups receive their requested amount. These groups are the Hinton Community Garden Society, the River Valley Riding Association, Hinton Adult Learning Society, and Options HIV West Yellowhead. So in all, the committee's recommendation for awards totaled $24,052. This is within budget, and awards are listed in the proposed council motion. And with that, we'll take any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Council, do we have any questions for the committee? Councillor Taylor.
Would you introduce your co-producer?
Oh.
I missed the introduction. I'm sorry.
William Desmond.
Or one of our committee members, and also on the Beaver Boardwalk Community Oversight Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really don't have any questions because the questions you've already answered, because I know at the committee of the whole last, we had a outline of this, and actually most of them that I had questions on, you didn't appoint any numbers to it. One in particular was the narcissistic abuse survivors, which I could not find anything on in that regards, but and also the Iron and Earth. I didn't recall them, being here 2 or 3 times already. So, but I really appreciate the due diligence that this group does to look through each of the applications and make fair decisions. And it sounds like that you were tasked with it and made some very fair decisions. Us going to appreciate the Hinton Minor Football also being adaptable to that as well. So I appreciate that. So thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move that council award
Sorry,
24,000.
Councillor Race, we're not there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's action item. This is just a delegation presentation.
Sorry for being so eager.
No, I appreciate the eagerness. No problem. Did you have a question, Councillor Race?
More of a comment. I did serve on this committee for several years, and it is tough work. You have a lot of applications to go through, a lot of reading. The urge to be fair is there. So I just commend you on the work that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I do want to take the opportunity to thank both of you and the rest of the committee as well. I too sat on the committee as a citizen in the past, and it's a pretty daunting task when you get those binders full of applications that you have to go through and weed through, and it is a bunch of difficult decisions. So thank you very much. And if you could extend our thanks to the rest of the group as well, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our delegations and presentations for today and into action items. Action item 6.1, leads directly off of the presentation that we just had. Community Grants Fall Intake Awards to administration.
Thank you, Chair. I'll pass this to Ms. Juke.
Thank you, and through the chair to the rest of council. So I won't add a lot more. There's a little bit of background that I'll just mention. On October 10th, Committee of the Whole did receive an overview of the fall intake application projects. And those are also provided in the summary report. That's attachment 1 to this RFD. There's a few words there, just the key highlights of the projects. In total, the fall intake received 7 new applications and 2 were brought forward that had been deferred from the spring intake. One of the new applicants also subsequently requested deferral to spring 2024. They recognized that the demand was high and that they didn't need their money till 24 anyway. So they're putting all their eggs in that basket. The Hinton Grant Funding Advisory Committee did meet with the groups on October 2nd and as a group as well on October 11th to discuss and finalize their recommendations. And so I'll take any questions that you might have. I hope that you've got enough information about the projects to make an informed decision, but I can answer any questions that you may have about those as well. So thank you.
Great, thank you, administration. Council, are there any comments, questions, motions? Councillor Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move the council award $24,052 for the 2023 Community Grant Program Fall Intake as recommended by the Hinton Grant Funding Advisory Committee, specifically as follows. Do you want me to list all those?
You should, yeah.
Okay. The Hinton Community Garden Society for $3,050. The River Valley Riding Association for $4,533. Hinton Minor Football Association for $5,000. The Hinton Adult Learning Society for $7,190. And Options HIV West Yellowhead for $4,279. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Reese. Did you want to speak to it?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reese. Council, we now have a motion before us. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, again, thanks to the advisory committee, but also to administration. I really appreciated the opportunity to at least have an idea of what groups are coming and have that discussion at Committee of the Whole. Even though we may not had a lot of details, it highlighted and gave us an opportunity to flag any for administration and possibly for the group. So I felt this one less clunky and it was a lot smoother process. So I really appreciate administration's efforts on that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to supporting this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council? Any comments or questions? Seeing no other comments or questions from council, I would like to speak to it. I too would like to echo the comments from Councillor Haas. I found the information that council got in this package was easy to digest, and a lot of the background information, even though it was, fairly short, condensed blurb form, eliminated a lot of the potential questions that we would have been putting to the committee had we not had that information. So I really liked this format and hope we can continue this format through the community grant fund as it moves forward to future years. With that, seeing no one else in queue, we will call to question the motion that council award $24,052 for the 2023 Community Grant Program Fall Intake as recommended by the Hinton Grant Funding Advisory Committee, specifically as follows. Hinton Community Garden Society, $3,050. River Valley Riding Association, $4,533. Hinton Minor Football Association, $5,000. Hinton Adult Learning Society, $7,190. Options HIV West Yellowhead, $4,279 to total $24,052. Council, if there's no other comments or questions, please vote now. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Council, is there anything further on this item before we move on? Seeing nothing further, that brings us to action item 6.2, Diwali financial request. Administration.
Thank you, Chair. I will also turn this one over to Ms. Juke.
Thank you. And through the deputy, through the chair to the rest of council. So this item is a one-off financial request put forward through the policy application form that we've developed in 2022, 23. It's a request for support for the Diwali Festival plan for November 4th and 5th at the Royal Canadian Legion number 249 in Hinton. The first night will be a dance and the second night is a feast and a lot more dancing. In 2022, this event took place for the first time and was widely enjoyed by many Hintonites of South Asian culture and those just interested in it. The festival lead is organizer is Mr. Trishar Parmar, a notable chef at a local restaurant who has made an application for support under the policy. Of note, the group is staging this event is not a formalized society, so they can't apply through the community grant program as well. They started to organize after the fall intake was closed. The request is actually for the costs of renting the Legion for the 2 nights at $630 per night for a total of $1,260. The event is staged by volunteers, but there is a cover charge of $15 per plate. Just for the cost of food and decorations. By way of background, the town supported this event last year, but we did it administratively through a budget line that we had, as it was only $600 last year. It was steeply discounted by the Legion for their own reasons, but they can't do it again this year. Supporting this festival aligns with 2 policies and supports council's strategic plan, key principle of inclusivity. And also there's to give you the balance on your council contingency fund, which is where this would come from. You currently have $7,900 there after the anticipated costs of several initiatives that council supports have already been deducted. So with that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
Great. Thank you to administration. Council, is there any comments or questions or proposed motions? Councillor Taylor.
I've been asked to ask the same question I asked before by these taxpayers. Why should the taxpayers pay for social events for groups such as this? I think the worry from these taxpayers again is that we pay for groups such as this and the previous group. We're going to get a long line of groups lining up. There's a lot of groups that we could be supporting for this. And these folks are concerned about, living on limited means and stretching their tax dollars and increasing property tax rates. So I look forward to your answer. Thank you.
Well, Councillor Taylor, I have to ask who that question is to. Is it to administration?
Yes.
Are you asking if there's something policy or bylaw related? Because other than that, it's probably a philosophical discussion. Or are you asking, is there specifically policy or something legislatively that directs the town to support these types of things? I only ask because if it's legislative, that's appropriate to be put to administration. If it's philosophical, that's maybe a question that's better answered by council.
Yeah, I don't really know. Sure, I can direct it to council.
Okay, administration, did you want to speak to the question?
Through the chair, no, I was just going to say that's we have an obligation to, help establish the process, bring it forward to council, but ultimately that's the decision that we're asking of council today.
Thank you, CEO Panasic.
I can reword that. I guess that would be a question that I would ask council to consider when they make a decision on projects like this or past the other project or projects going forward is these taxpayers' concerns. That maybe be a better way to word what I just said. Thank you for helping me.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have the same concerns. I'm all for inclusiveness and multiculturalism. And if it was brought to council potentially to have a multicultural fund that could be similar to a community grant program or something like that. But my worry is the same is they've followed all the policies. We got one off request. They fit the policy. The question now is to council whether or not that's something that we want to fund from that contingency fund. And my concern is similar, is that we have a lot of different groups in our community that celebrate lots of different holidays and events and things of that nature. And it could, a donation of this sort could start quite a few asks from this contingency fund. So I do have the same reservations that Councillor Taylor does. And, it is council's decision. Administration did their part bringing it forward to us in a request, and now it's up to in our hands. So that's my thoughts. I'm not sure where the rest of council feels, but that's my concern as well. And I'm not necessarily able to support this request at this time, unless I have other reasons not to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Race.
We don't have a motion on the floor.
No.
I'll make one right now. The council approved a donation of $1,260 for the 2023 Diwali Festival Facility rental fee to be paid directly to the Royal Canadian Legion, number 249 Hinton. You know what? My thinking is, and I don't agree with what you guys are saying right now. We've got people who have moved to our community, new people who have moved to our community. They're celebrating something that is so important to them. They're sharing their culture, sharing their traditions, their food. In the past, we have given money to the Food Festival before they were a civic agency, to Wild Mountain, to hockey, you name it. We were given money out of that contingency. I don't want to stop this. It's going to create so much happiness for a lot of people. And I truly don't think Hinton as a community is going to be really choked that we're given $1,200. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, we do now have a motion before us. Are there any comments or questions regarding the motion? Councillor Haas.
Yeah, and I respect all cultures. I really do. And I appreciate their coming to Hinton. It's just, when I look at this, it's an ask that is on the ratepayers. It's approximately 129 or 20 Hintonites that are attending. And I'm just not comfortable at this point. If there was like I said, a conversation down the road, how can we facilitate financially different cultures? But until that is made, this does set precedent. And until my worry is setting precedent like this could overtax or ask for this fund. And we've got a lot of different one ask. And this was the purpose of the one ask request, is the ability to council to make a decision, as to whether or not this is something that we want to fund. It's not something we don't respect. It's not something that we don't welcome. It's just whether or not we can fund that particular event. And that's where I'm sitting at. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, any other comments or questions? Councillor Race.
Thank you, sir. This was my motion, so I want to speak again on it. I urge council to be very careful here. There's only 4 of us. If it's a tie vote, it's defeated. If we got to have a discussion, let's have it later on, after this celebration has happened. Let's have this conversation next year. Let's help these people prepare to do some fundraising to come up with that money. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council. Seeing no one else in queue, I'd speak to the motion. I also won't be supporting the motion. I definitely welcome the Hindu community in our community and appreciate the Festival of Lights, the event that they're going to put on. my concern is the same concern has been expressed by other counselors. There is such a diverse range of religious festivals that if we set precedent by supporting the Diwali, we may wind up having no recourse to not support any other one that comes before us. And the funds that are available through in the council contingency fund are not significant. I feel that, in my opinion, I want to make sure that those funds are utilized on something that is broadly supportive in the community and as inclusive as it possibly can be. And I just don't feel that funding a religious celebration is as fully inclusive as we possibly could be. My concern is it might go down so far as to having a group come before us and ask to fund a Christmas party, because really it's not significantly different. That's why I won't be supporting this, but I do wish them the best of luck. And the festival is absolutely welcome in the community, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, to me, this has nothing to do with culture. This has to do with being a social event for a group. And if we start funding this for this group or the last group that spoke or the next group, the lineup will be just out the door. That's what it has to do for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing nothing else from council, we will call the motion to question. The motion that council approves a donation of $1,260 for the 2023 Diwali Festival facility rental fee to be paid directly to the Royal Canadian Legion number 249 Hinton. Council, if you could please vote now. Sorry, my apologies. I'm going to have to call for a revote. I voted incorrectly. My apologies. My apologies again, council. The motion is again before us. The council approves a donation of $1,260 for the 2023 Diwali Festival facility rental fee to be paid directly to the Royal Canadian Legion number 249 Hinton. Council, if you could please vote now. And that is defeated 3-1 with Councillor Race voting for. Council, is there anything further on this matter before we move on? Okay, seeing nothing further from council, we will move on to action item 6.3. JUPA Evergreens Catholic School Board Administration.
Thank you, Chair, to the rest of council. So we're bringing this forward today to approve the joint use planning agreement with the Evergreen School Division, as well as a second motion to rescind the school use of recreation facilities policy number 068. The rationale for the joint use planning agreement is that we actually have an obligation under 670 of the Municipal Government Act to implement these agreements with all of our school divisions operating within the municipality by June of next year. The policy that has been in place that has managed the Evergreen School Foundation or School Division and their use of our facilities was the school use recreation facilities policy. If we do decide to pass that agreement, that policy will no longer be needed, as everything will be included in this agreement. And we also have an agreement with the public school division, so it will be not needed anymore. The main changes to the agreement in front of you is that we have included set minimums for weekend and weekday community use of the school facilities, and that was in order to facilitate an increased usage of the school facilities, primarily the gymnasiums. The established list of municipal and school facilities and times that are available for the joint use. new operating guidelines to ensure community use of school facilities are accessible to the public, and set processes and establish responsibilities related to acquiring and servicing future school sites. That's all I have, Chair, and if there's any questions on this agreement, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, CAO Panasic. I do have a couple councillors in queue. I have Councillor Haas.
I have no questions. I feel confident. I know my colleague, Councillor Magoon, is not here this evening, and he did voice some concerns at the committee, the whole. He has followed up and shared with council that the administration there is fully confident with the wording of the agreement, protects everything, and make sure that school is not interrupted. And so I'm going to move that council approves the joint use planning agreement with the Evergreen Catholic School Division as presented. And if I could speak to it real quickly, I really appreciate this agreement coming forward. It offers the opportunity now to some of our groups to access those facilities. Specifically, I think the majority will be the the gym facilities for various things, whether it's pickleball or whatever. So I appreciate the administration's due diligence on this, and I look forward to the other school division also coming forward to increase it even further. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. I have Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I'll vote yes too. I just don't understand why sections 11 to 15 and Schedule D are in the agreement relating to school siting and school acquisition and allocation of future school sites. Seem to be odd that would be in an agreement where we're talking about school use.
Thank
You
you,
maybe
Councillor.
explain that to me.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Administration.
Through the chair to members of council. So the elements of the agreement are actually dictated by the legislation. So it's not only the joint use of facilities, that is one element that must be included in these agreements, but the process is related to how we dedicate municipal reserve for future school sites, the processes that go along with how we allocate and service those school sites for future use. Those are all elements that were legislatively required to be included in the agreement.
Okay. Are those issues with the Catholic School Board coming up in Hinton?
Follow up. Sorry, what was the follow up, Councillor Taylor?
Do we have to actively have school sites on tap for future expansion for Catholic schools in Hinton? Is that?
Through the chair to members of council. So we don't have school sites that are dedicated for one school division or another. We do have some municipal reserve. I don't know if at this very moment we have enough municipal reserve in order to allocate an adequate school site. So I don't know that, but the intent with municipal reserve is over a longer period of time, you acquire that land that could be used in the future for those types of purposes. I'm not aware of specific sites as of right now. I believe there was one close to Robb Road that was considered at one point as a future site, but I don't think it's gone any further than some consideration or preliminary discussions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, is there any other additional comments or questions regarding the motion? Okay, seeing nothing further from council, we would call the motion to question then. We have a motion on the table that council approves the joint use planning agreement with the Evergreen Catholic School Division as presented. Council, if you could please vote now. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, council. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I think this is terribly exciting to have an agreement with a school district that we haven't had an agreement before. And this is going to open up the possibilities for weekend and evening recreation for community groups. I think this is great for Hinton. So I look forward to the increased recreation.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now that that is passed, I'd like to move that council rescinds the school use recreation facilities policy number 068. If I can quickly speak to it, it's an administrative with a new agreement in place. It's just, we need to rescind this to replace it with the new. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, we have another motion before us. Any comments, questions, or debate? Okay, seeing nothing from council, then we would call that question as well. Call to question the motion that council rescinds school use of recreation facilities policy number 068. Council, if you could please vote now. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, council. Council, is there anything further on the joint use planning agreement with Evergreen Catholic School Division agenda item before we move on? Okay, seeing nothing additional from council, we will move on to 6.4, Fortis Alberta Electric Franchise Fee Administration.
Thank you, Chair. I will pass this over to Ms. Bourbeau.
Thank you, Council. Before you this evening is our request to notify Fortis Alberta Electric that the franchise fee at 12% is where the town of Hinton wishes it to remain for the 2024 year. That is the recommended action from administration. We did have some discussion prior at a prior committee meeting. Council is definitely able to increase the franchise fee, reduce the franchise fee, or leave it the same. With the franchise fee remaining the same at 11.73%, due to the increased transmission and distribution revenue that Fortis Alberta has forecasted, there would be an increase to franchise revenue for the town of $46,241. Also remaining at the 11.73%, the fee that would be paid by the residential customer, the average residential customer would be $106.82 over the course of a 12-month period. And with that, I will take any questions.
Okay, thank you, administration. Council, do you have any comments, questions, proposed motions? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to put my proposed motion up. I sent it to administration today. My motion is I direct administration to adjust the electrical franchise fee such that the amount paid by the customer stays similar over the next year. That would be both the residential and the commercial customer. My concern with these fees, again, is that over the years, 12 to 13 years, these kind of hidden fees have gone up 219%, usually once per council. Not doing anything represents a 6% increase this year. This is not a visible way of collecting taxes. It's poorly understood by the taxpayer. I haven't been secretive about this. My intent with these kind of fees is to cap them. And then any extra money that we want, we should get that out of property taxes, because that's a much more highly discussed, visible way of collecting taxes, where there's a lot of discussion on that. And yeah, every time you turn around, the governments are siphoning money off you from this tax and that tax. And individually, they don't add up to much, like they look like very small amounts of money. But when you look at the carbon tax, the property tax, the franchise fee tax, the GST, all these taxes, they add up to a considerable amount of money taken off the consumer. And there are better ways to collect money from the consumer than this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, we do have a motion before us now. Anyone like to speak to it? Councillor Haas.
Yeah, I think this is a bigger question. I'm not going to support this. If council wants to relook again at the franchise fees, then, I'm welcome the conversation. But at this point, I'm looking at an estimated increase. And if I recall from the question, the community whole of $6.61 by the residential customer, that's over a period of a year. It's an annual increase at the present, 11.3 or 11.73%. Is that correct, administration?
Through to all of council, yes, that would be the average increase for residential customer.
Yeah. And I guess my other comment is this is not hidden. It's transparent. We're doing this right here, right now, to discuss the franchise fees. It's not a hidden. It's been the way many communities do business. And so until council has a motion to relook at this and look at it through taxation, I'm comfortable with what is recommended. So I won't be in favor of this at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will not speak in favor of this motion. And in regards to this being a hidden tax, I don't think it's hidden. It's right there on our bill. People see it. And if people aren't aware of that tax, I think it's on us or somebody to let them know about this money that they're paying on their bill. Another thing, that $46,000, that will go into general reserve. If we didn't want it to go into general reserves, by a motion of council, it could go into our rec center reserve fund. It could. Council could make a motion saying this $46,000 is going to go here. So this is money that can be used, operation costs, capital costs. So I'm okay with voting no to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, and that's how these things are justified. The $6 is insignificant. But when you look at the percentage of the actual net municipal revenues that this now comprises versus what it comprised in 2011 and 2010, it used to comprise 5% of our net municipal taxes, and it now comprises at 500,000, and now it comprises 15 to 17% of our net municipal taxes at $1.7 million. So this is really creeping up there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Having no other councillors in queue, I'd speak to it. I'm not going to be in favor of the proposed motion either. I find it interesting that every time franchise fees come before us, they're put forward, they're often put forward as being a hidden tax, and they're not a hidden tax. In fact, they're not a tax at all. They're a fee that is charged to a private business for a service that they're receiving from the municipality of Hinton. How come we don't ever have the discussion that municipal business licenses are hidden taxes? It's the same thing. It's a fee that's charged to the business for a service that the municipality of Hinton provides. They're a political item because of the way they're handled by the utility companies. The utility companies choose to separate out the franchise fee in a separate line item on your bill, so you see it front and center, and it's paid to the municipality of Hinton, so it is perceived to be a tax where it's not. It's just a business operating expense that they pass on to the consumer, just like every other business expense that a business has. It all gets passed on to the consumer. Anyway, that's why I'm not going to support this proposed motion. I'm content to leave it at the same percentage that it was last year. My other concern about the ways franchise fees are dealt with sometimes is I actually feel that it would be monumentally unfair if they were removed and the revenue that's lost from not collecting franchise fees is collected through taxation instead. My understanding of the way that these work is that there's a user pay component in them. The major users of electricity in our community are not the citizens who own houses. The major users of electricity in our community are the major industrial users. With the format the way that it is, those major industrial users are paying the bulk of the franchise fee, not the private citizens. That's all I have to say on that for now. Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Sure. I'm just talking about the, the taxpayers that talk to me and they view this as hidden or at least opaque. It's not as transparent as property taxes. That's the point. With respect to whether it's a tax versus a fee, I guess we can be technocratic about that. But the average consumer does not have a choice as to whether or not he pays this like they do at the recreation center. The average consumer has to pay this, and so to the average consumer, it is a tax, unless of course they want to not have electricity or natural gas, which is hardly a choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing nothing further from council, if we could call the question to, or the motion to question, please. Council, we have a motion that council directs administration to adjust the electric franchise fee such that the amount paid by the customer stays similar over the next year. Council, if you could please vote now. And that is defeated 3-1 with Councillor Taylor voting in favor. Council, Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move the recommended action. The council requests administration to advise FortisAlberta that the town of Hinton will not change the franchise fee rate for 2024, thereby leaving the rate at 11.73%. And I don't wish to speak to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, we do have a motion before us now. Are there any comments, questions, or debate? Okay, seeing none, then if we could call that motion to question. Council. We do have the motion before us that council requests administration to advise FortisAlberta that the town of Hinton will not change the franchise fee rate for 2024, thereby leaving the rate at 11.73%. Council, if you could please vote now. And that is carried 3-1 with Councillor Taylor voting against. Council, is there anything further regarding the FortisAlberta electric franchise fee agenda item before we move on? Okay, seeing nothing, we will move on then to 6.5 ATCO gas franchise fee administration.
Thank you, Chair. I will turn that over to Ms. Borbeau as well.
Thank you, Council. Along the same lines as the previous presentation, utility companies do request that we attempt to make a decision by November 1 every year as to what the franchise fee is going to be for the upcoming year. Meeting the November 1 deadline does provide some certainty that any changes in fees will occur before or by January 1 of the following year. The ATCO gas franchise fee was decreased in 2022 for the 2023 year, and administration is here before you requesting to leave the ATCO gas franchise fee at the consistent 12%.
Great, thank you, administration. Council, are there any comments or questions, motions regarding the ATCO gas franchise fee? Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to move the recommended action. The council requests administration to advise ATCO Gas that the town of Hinton will not change the franchise fee rate for 2024, thereby leaving the rate at 12%.
Councillor Haas, did you want to speak to it?
Real quickly, if I recall from the committee, the whole conversation, this actually reduces some of the revenue compared to last year. So we, I guess, could have increased it, but I think it's reasonable to leave it as it is, and we'll see what next year brings. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I just want to confirm. This makes the actual fee for the natural gas franchise fee customer who has to pay either similar or lower for next year than what it was for the last year.
Councillor Taylor, administration.
Due to all of council, from the provider, I was not given what the average residential fee was in 2023. They do estimate, based on the revenues of 385,000, that the average fee paid by a residential customer in 2024 will be $70.25 a year. So based over the 12 months.
And that's similar or less than last year?
I will have to get back to you on that. That wasn't part of the calculator, and I know it can be the whole, and I did not look that up.
I would vote for this if I could get an answer to that question, but I'm not getting an answer, so I can't vote for it.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, are there any other comments or questions regarding the motion? Councillor Haas?
I guess the question, because administration, you have attempted to gather that information. It's ATCO that's not providing that. Is that my understanding?
Through to all of council, the franchise fee calculators supplied by the two suppliers were slightly different. The one supplied by Fortis identified the fee paid in the prior year compared to what would be paid this year. The calculators supplied by ATCO did not make that distinction. My assumption, and that's only my assumption, is that because we will be claiming less revenue in 2024, that the fee will be down slightly
Okay.
for residential customer, yes.
If I may, to follow up on that, I mean, we don't control what ATCO Gas, the information they provide us, but I'm hoping administration, if they have an opportunity to provide feedback to ATCO, that is important information for our citizens to understand when we're making these decisions. Are they paying more? Are they paying less? And I think that they need to do their due diligence. If one company is providing that and another is not, then I don't think that's good business on their part, so that we can make those decisions. So I'm not against at all administration whatsoever. This is a comment towards ATCO Gas and the lack of information they're providing us. So, and obviously the calculation, there one exists if another one is using it. So that's my only thoughts on this. So, but I do take council or administration's recommendation based on their knowledge of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. In the analysis section, there is forecasts for 2024 and 2023. And the 2024 delivery tariff revenue forecast is down approximately $300,000, and revenue to the town is down approximately, sorry. There you go, numbers guy, $37,000. So I think it's safe to assume, because the forecast revenue is going down, it's safe to assume that the payment from citizens will be down, but it won't, that's not significant. It'll be down marginally, just like the other one was up marginally. This one would probably be down marginally. And of course, that's based on forecasts. So it's my opinion, but without any hard numbers to go on, that's the best that I've got right at this point. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from council? Okay, seeing nothing, then if we could call the motion to question, please. So we do have a motion before us. The council requests administration to advise ATCO Gas that the town of Hinton will not change the franchise fee rate for 2024, thereby leaving the rate at 12%. Council, if you could please vote now. And that is carried unanimously. Okay, thank you, council. Council, is there anything further on this agenda item before we move on? Okay, seeing nothing, we will move on to action item 6.6. Maybe before we move on, I'll look to council. Do we require a break at all? No, we're good. Okay, we'll carry on then. Moving on to action item 6.6. Cancellation of the October 24th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting. CEO Panasic.
Thank you, Chair, to the rest of council. So we are recommending that we cancel the 31st meeting. I believe that originally it was intended to take the 24th meeting and put it on the 31st to give us some room on the 24th for a budget meeting. But I don't believe that we will need that 5th meeting in the month of October. I think that the agenda is relatively light, and with it being Halloween, we are recommending that we cancel that meeting for the 31st.
Okay, thank you, CEO Panasic. Just for some clarification, the action item 6.6 says cancellation of the October 24th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting. Yeah, I apologize. It was my understanding that that meeting was going to be canceled in deference to the budget meeting that's scheduled for that day.
My apologies, you are correct.
Okay, okay. Okay, I'm sorry, administration, then did you want to speak to that then?
Note through the chair, my apologies, but we are going to be looking at the 24th then in lieu of the budget meeting.
Okay, I think we have an understanding then. The Committee of the Whole meeting that was scheduled for October 24th is being canceled. And in its place, we're going to be engaging in budget discussions on October 24th and 25th, I believe, correct? Yeah. Okay. Council, do we have any comments or questions? Councillor Haas.
I'd like to move that council cancel the committee of the whole meeting scheduled for October 24th, 2023. That's all I have to say. I'm just glad we can go trick or treating now.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, we have a motion before us now. Are there any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, if we could see the motion, please. Council, we have a motion before us that council cancel the Committee of the Whole meeting on October 24th, 2023. Council, if you could please vote now. And that is carried unanimously. Council, is there anything further regarding the cancellation of the October 24th meeting? Okay, seeing nothing, we will move on to our added action item 6.7, replacement of CPO unit, and I didn't get the number. CEO Panasic.
Thank you, Chair. I will turn this one over to Mr. DeBodra.
Thank you, CEO Panasic. Through the chair to all of council. I have before you a report requesting the replacement of CPO unit 208. With the recommended action that council approved the purchase of replacement of CPO vehicle 208 not to exceed $90,000 with funding being drawn from MSI. To give a little background on this, the CPO unit has been a bit of a problem for us, culminating this year in 2023. During much of COVID, this unit was operated, or we operated in that division with one peace officer, and this vehicle remained idle for most of that time. Since hiring a peace officer, and we have a full complement now, this vehicle is utilized on a daily basis, except when it has had multiple small mechanical and electrical problems. And earlier this spring, it was down for a few weeks when it needed a head gasket replaced. We have spent in the neighborhood of $10,000 to repair it in this year alone. It was my intent to request a new CPO vehicle as part of the 2024 budget process and keep this vehicle as a mechanical spare for when a vehicle is in for servicing, and to extend the life of this vehicle probably for several more years. Regretfully, while traveling to a course, the CPOs ran into some mechanical difficulty. They decided to turn around and return to Hinton, and the engine blew on this vehicle in the Obed area. It had to be towed back to town. The repair costs are estimated to be between $15,000 to $20,000, which would mean we have invested in excess of $28,000 this year alone. I presented three options for council consideration. The first would be to purchase a demo unit, which is a near to new unit for us. It's available, it's in Edmonton, and pretty much ready to go. with some small changes in deckling. Second option would be to seek out and purchase a used vehicle. And our research to date has found that there's very, very few available vehicles that would suit our needs that are less than 20 years old that are on the market currently. And the third option would be to purchase a new vehicle, which will take several months to obtain. Administration recommends council consider option one, as this would more quickly fill our needs and get our service branch fully effective and efficient in the least amount of time. And with that, if you have any questions, I will be pleased to answer them.
Thank you to administration. I do have a question. My apologies. I know this was a late edition, so I did skim through it, not as carefully as I could have, and I may have missed it somewhere. But what would be the plan for the existing unit 208 as we move forward? Sorry, I should clarify. If council approves the purchase of the demo unit, the recommended action, what happens with unit 208? See, open asset.
In discussion with our fleet coordinator, John Martineau, it's not worth repairing, so we would dispose of it according to town policy. And the equipment that's in the vehicle, Mr. Chair, would be salvaged, like the radar equipment, the radio equipment would all be transferred to this new vehicle.
Right. Okay. So all the equipment's taken out of it and the vehicle's scrapped basically to save the $20,000 repair bill.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, dealing with the fleet can be challenging, so I sympathize with you on that part. So I just have a couple of questions though. This big black thing that's in front of it, what's that called? A push bar or something like that? Is that included in the price of the new thing? The new vehicle we're going to add? We're going to buy? Like, is that part of the 90,000?
Through the chair, to all of council, if it's comes with a push bar, yes. I believe that the demonstration model doesn't have a push bar on it.
The concern I've heard from folks is that if we put a push bar on these things, that they're very expensive, and for a bylaw vehicle, they're not used very much. So the amount that a bylaw office, a vehicle would use a push bar for the 10 to 15,000 that it would cost, not going to get hardly any use versus a push bar on, say, an RCMP vehicle that actually goes to other things. So yeah, glad to hear we're not going to purposely put a push bar on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Huss.
I had another question, but that triggered me another question in regards to, first off, I guess my question to administration on the push bar, the current push bar that is on 208, I'm assuming would be similar to the other equipment, would be removed and potentially put on the new unit. I guess my other question though is I'm not familiar with the standards of what is required on a CPO vehicle. Is a push bar a requirement, or is it an addition that we've chose to do?
Through the chair to all of council, that is an option that's available to us. It's not a requirement of a peace officer vehicle. Where those are utilized most often is in interception, and we do not intercept. We pull people over, of course, but if they choose to take over, we're not going to ram them off the road or anything. It does provide some protection in the event of an animal hit, which could happen in any vehicle, but it's not a requirement to be on a peace officer vehicle.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I do have one quick question, if I may. The funding is taken from the MSI fund, and I'm just curious, is there not enough in reserves in our fire and protective services reserve that it's coming out of the MSI?
I may defer part of this answer, Mr. Chair, to my colleague, but these peace officer vehicles are not in the fire reserve. They are in the regular reserve of all of our town vehicles.
Okay.
And at that, I would defer to Ms. Barbeau.
Thank you, Council. In conversations with Director DeBodrop, we did discuss either the reserve or the MSI funding option. The town did not utilize all of their MSI funding in years prior. We're currently working at reconciling some items from 2021 and moving forward. So we do have some excess funds, is the wrong word, because all money in MSI granting is very important, but we do have some leeway in there. And just through discussions, thought that that would be a strategic opportunity to utilize those funds and leave our reserves intact for future planning with council.
Follow up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I guess my only comment is we had a great robust conversation on Saturday at our workshop about reserves. And I'm just curious, you know, if we don't have a reserve for our protective services, potentially looking at that, because it's a substantial amount of money to prepare for in the future, where we can maybe not necessarily use those MSI funds for that. But that's just a comment. And I appreciate the answer why it's coming from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To administration. Option 1 talks about the purchase of a near new demo model. We can get it quickly. It's in Edmonton. Then it talks about this company also has a white Ford Explorer. Are we talking 2 vehicles in option 1?
Through the chair, thank you for that question. The first vehicle being referred to is actually gray in color. It is set up as a peace officer vehicle, and it's also ready to go, except that it's gray in color. The provincial regulations don't permit that. They have to be white in color and deckled according to the provincial standard. The only thing that would say Hinton on it is the door decal. And then the other vehicle, the Ford Explorer that they have, is also a white vehicle, currently a white vehicle, but it is set up as for a fire department use. So it only has red lights on it. So the only change they'd have to make to that vehicle is to change the light bar so it's red and blue and decal it according to the provincial standards.
Yeah, follow up, sir.
Mhm.
So with option 1, we would make a decision on the first vehicle, the demo, which is gray, or the Ford Explorer.
That is correct. And through the chair, I would recommend that we go with the white vehicle.
I'm sorry?
I would suggest we go with the light vehicle. There'd be lesser cost to making that change of just the lights. We wouldn't have to wrap the vehicle in white.
CEO Panasic.
Thank you, Chair, to the rest of council. My preference on the approach here was that the options are available for your information, but you know, it's typically that's not council's role is to determine whether it's you know, a white vehicle or a gray vehicle. You know, I think the recommended action is a good one. You know, and then we should allow our director of protective services to source the one that will meet our needs. And we have a few different options. Sounds like the white one and or the demos could be gone quickly and probably for a good price as their demos, but that's what we would be going forward with to try and source, especially because we're only down to 1 vehicle at the moment. How fast we can get it will be a big consideration, but when it comes to the motion, I would recommend the recommended action or not.
Thank you, CEO Panasic. Just before I go to Councillor Haas, what was the cost if council chose to go with option 3? What's the estimated cost of the new unit purchase and what's the wait time for delivery?
Through the chair, the cost would not exceed $92,000 for a brand new vehicle, but the build time could be several months.
So price wise, it's similar, but several months wait time. Okay, thank you. Councillor Haas.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, CEO, for your comments. I want to move that council approves the purchase of a replacement peace officer vehicle not to exceed $90,000 with funding being drawn from MSI. If I can quickly speak to it, we're down one vehicle. Obviously, this is beyond repair. The fact that we can get a vehicle and whatever administration chooses, but can still utilize the equipment in the current vehicle, transfer it over, get our CPOs on the road as quickly as possible. So, yeah, I look for support on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will support this motion. And when this is done, I do want to finish off my conversation that I was having before. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, are there any other comments or questions before we call to question? Okay, seeing no further comments or questions, if we could see the motion, please. Council, we do have a motion before us that council approves the purchase of a replacement peace officer vehicle not to exceed $90,000 with funding being drawn from MSI. Council, if you could please vote now. And that is carried unanimously. Council, is there anything further? Councillor Haas?
Yeah, just a quick question. I mean, this is one unit. Where are we at with the second unit? Are we anywhere near the end of life on that one? Or are we having similar issues with it? Just out of curiosity.
Through the chair, the second unit, I'm going to say it's unit 210, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know.
It is in good mechanical condition. It is not near end of life. We've got several, probably 5 years before we'll be looking at replacing that vehicle.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Taylor?
My concern is regarding the unit 206 and the engine blowing at 145,000 kilometers. For the cars I drive, that's virtually a brand new car, right? So I guess my question is, was the maintenance schedule followed? And what I'm referring to is, I've heard of vehicles blowing engines when they spend a lot of time idling and say, the oil changes are per, kilometers versus hours of use in the engine. That's something I've heard of in the oil and gas industry where the vehicle idles for long periods of time. So can you comment on that?
Administration?
Through the chair, our peace officer vehicles have regular maintenance. They have an A check and a B check, we call them, two times a year. They have their oil changes done quite regularly. As we have any mechanical problems pop up, if we get any indicator lights, those are checked into that day or the next day by our town shop, by our town mechanic. And tire changes are done on a regular basis. I could safely say that we follow a very regular maintenance schedule. And they have daily checks before they drive them. Called commercial vehicle inspections. We do those every day at the beginning of shift.
And do they spend a lot of time idling in a day?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They're operated quite a bit. They put on anywhere between 150 to 300 kilometers a day.
And that idling is considered in the maintenance schedule?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I have no one else in queue, so council, if there's nothing further on the replacement of CPO vehicle unit 208, we will move on. Item 7.1 has been removed from today's agenda. We'll move on to council reporting. I'll start to my sorry. A 7.1 rural renewal stream was removed at the beginning of the meeting. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Motion is, sorry for confusion. That administration, the council will direct administration to collect public input on whether the train horn noise at the Dranning Crossing constitutes enough of a problem to action. Do I get to speak to that, or it doesn't matter to me?
That's just notice a motion today, but I just want to check with administration. Was this notice of motion submitted per the procedure bylaw? Because it didn't wind up in the agenda, so it's my apologies for missing that, but normally it would be part of the agenda.
Yes, through the chair, Counselor Taylor did provide this to administration in writing prior to the meeting. I believe it was yesterday, but he did provide it prior to the meeting.
Okay. I'm gonna call a short recess, actually. I'm gonna call a short recess. We could confer with administration quickly.
Debatable, no, but you say a word.
Thank you, everyone. Having received some clarification from administration on notice of motion, we can proceed. So I will ask council, are there any notices of motion? Councillor Taylor, you could key your mic, please. Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, I have a notice of motion that council direct administration to collect public input on whether the train noise at the Dranning Crossing constitutes enough of a problem to action.
Thank you for that, Councillor Taylor. I do want to just look to admin for additional clarification. There's no discussion or debate on the notice of motion today. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct. The councillor is simply putting it on notice for the next regular council meeting to come forward as an action item.
Thank you very much, administration. Thank you for that, Councillor Taylor. Councillor, are there any other notices of motion today? Okay, seeing no further notices of motion, we will move on to section 8 reporting, 8.1 council reports. And I'll start to my right, Councillor Taylor.
Positions that's not here right now, and maybe she'll come back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Councillor Race.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Haas.
I have nothing to report, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Well, I can go. I have nothing to report. So that didn't really help too much, Councillor Taylor.
I did attend the Rural Stream meeting for employers last week. And that was about I think 14 or 15 employers that attended. And it seems to be something that's benefiting a lot of businesses in town, and people like it. I guess my question on that is, our council understands that the HRRSC committee is working on modifying parameters that include specific specialist hires or employees from out of the country. So that's getting worked on, and that will include modification of some of the parameters that the town of Hinton has flexibility to modify versus the program plan parameters that we can't. Can council have information on these modified requirements so that we can go back to some of these employers and make sure that they are satisfied? And when will this work? This is why I wanted to ask. And when will this work be done? As I understand, the proposals are in the works. The there are proposals in the works that are getting held up. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Taylor. To administration. If we need Counselor Taylor to summarize for Ms. Duke's benefit, I'm sure that would be appropriate.
That would be great. Thanks.
Counselor Taylor, sorry.
I tried to delay so that you would come back. I know you were helping me, so thank you. I appreciate what you just did. And I tried to wait for you, but we couldn't. So I attended the Rural Stream meeting with employers last week, and about 15 employers showed up, and it seems to be helping the employers quite a bit. Council or I understand that the HRRS committee is working on modifying parameters to include specialist hires employees from out of country, and those include parameters that we, the town of Hinton, have control over versus the parameters that the government of Alberta has parameters for. Can council have information on these modified requirements so that we can go back to some of these employers that are speaking to us to see that they're satisfied? And when will this work be done? As I understand, there are a number of proposals in the works that are getting held up while these parameters are getting worked on.
CEO Panasic.
My apologies, Chair. I will turn that over to Ms. Duke.
Thank you. And through the chair to the rest of council. So the program administrator, Karen Bouchard from FCSS Manager, and I are meeting tomorrow to talk about how to bring this forward to the committee. In the interim, however, we are moving forward with applicants that are asking questions about these exemptions that they're looking for, and we are prepared to address them because of the need for the time limits that they are facing. And so it looks like there's comfort level on the part of the employer that has been requesting these exemptions and had to have his needs fulfilled. So it looks like he's going to be able to do that in a very prompt fashion. So we're already processing some, but we do want to get the program tweaked formally to make sure that we can do this in the future ongoing, and that we're anticipating what the needs will be with as many of the adjustments as we can make, if that makes sense. So we are processing applications that are in front of us, but we're also developing the program tweaks that we're looking for.
So these folks have been contacted and they're not getting held up. That sounds good. Thank you.
I can confirm that's correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Taylor. Anything else to report? No. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to 8.2 Chief Administrative Officer Reporting and Status Report. CEO Panasic.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have anything to report.
Okay, thank you, CEO. So council, we do have one closed session item. We need a motion to go into closed session. Counselor Race.
I'd like to move to go into closed session.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Race. If we could see the motion, please. Council, we have a motion that council move into closed session at 7:43 PM. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, please vote now. And that's carried unanimously. We'll move into closed session.